Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. I am Coach Les, and I am here with Sujata Tiwari from Singapore, and we are here tonight to bring you another round of conversation that is surely going to take us the next level in the world of friendship and all the things that we know about friends and how we relate to them. So what would you say tonight's topic is about, Sujata?
Isn't it a continuation from yesterday?
It is, but we're taking on the serious note of the negative aspects of friendship.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll dive into it when we get into it. But thank you all for being here. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Tonya. Hi, Shakanya. Hi, Gracie. Janae, Sandra, Britt, Charmene. Great to see you. Thanks for being in the room. So we are live with this podcast on social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and on Clubhouse, the newest social media app, where we also invite people to come up on stage and have a conversation with us. We are here from 9:30 Central until 10:30 Central. So it's a power hour of having conversations that make a difference in life. And my friend Sujata here from Singapore has written a book called Against All Odds. And inside of that book, one of the things that I'll give you a brief intro to the book so you can kind of get a flavor of what we're going to be dealing with tonight. Sujata has accumulated a wealth of experience during her life, leading to insights and knowledge that cannot be coached or taught in a class. She has been a mother, a wife, a journalist, a consultant, an activist, a leader, and businesswoman, domestically and internationally. In sharing her story, Sujata serves to provide readers of all backgrounds in any part of the world with real-life examples on how to deal with the unpredictable nature of everyday life. And we've teamed up to provide you with modern-day information, answering questions. Our goal is to have people come up on stage on Clubhouse and even people on social media to come in and say hello. And if they have an opportunity to join in, for instance, Joey Rea is on Facebook listening in. So hi, Joey. Thanks for being here. And if they have questions, our goal is to let them ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. And, this really is, for those of you that are listening and those of you in the room, this is your podcast. This is your show. Why? Because it's your opportunity to get things answered. So with that, I am going to hand the mic over to my partner, Sujata, see what she has to say before we move on, and then we'll dive in a little. Sujata.
Yes, my dear Coach Les. So, we are talking about friendship, and one of my best friends on Clubhouse is Coach Les. He walks the talk. But having said that, there are not everybody is blessed to have real good friends who will walk with you, who will watch your back, and who will uplift you. There are many times when we are betrayed by our friends, when we think we have invested in them, and we realize at some point that it was all a lie. So, how do you deal with it? And what do you do in such situations? Is, I guess, one of the things that we discuss today.
And there you go. And, for me, one of the things that I like to consider that I'm good at on this app is sharing some of my own personal stories, personal experiences, and working with people that are stuck in their position, and offering an opportunity for them to, look to the other side and see how we can support people going through and having breakthroughs. So with that, hi, Sister Jeanette. How are you?
Good, Coach. How are you? How is everybody?
I'm phenomenal. A little tired today, but ready to rock and roll and get inspired by people and their conversations. And there's Brother Joey. How you doing, Brother Joey?
Hey, good evening. Just hopped over from Facebook over here so I can be interactive.
There you go. I know interaction on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn is really kind of it's not as interactive as Clubhouse. I mean, you can ask questions. I think actually on Facebook you might actually be able to join live if the live were started on Facebook. But then we wouldn't have any way to keep track of it, record it, put it on to a podcast. So that's why we choose to use StreamYard and send it to 9 different places. All right, so we're going to dive into the friendship thing. And, I think one of the, and by the way, I just have to say that yesterday was very hilarious. And Joey and Jeanette, you'll get a kick out of this. So at the end of the show yesterday, I go to sit down and have dinner with my wife, and she's chuckling, and she goes, and she reaches over and puckers up her lips and goes, "Okay, it's time to kiss Grandma." And I almost had a heart attack. Because she had been the person listening on Facebook to the whole show. It was very, very funny. And I said, "I didn't get in trouble, did I?" And she goes, "Oh, no, you did a good job. You did a good job of communicating. It was good." So, escaped with the close shave on that one. And there's Tanisha. Come on up. Tanisha, ladies and gentlemen, is one of our regulars, along with Joey and Jeanette. And I see another couple people came into the audience. I'm going to send them an invite. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're the others in the room, but to me, you're all the great people because you are people that have found a small room where we will invite you up to the stage, where we will treat you kindly. We won't scream at you. We won't make you feel stupid. And we will love you and show you how to have a good time on Clubhouse and the benefit of an extraordinary time and the benefit of small rooms on Clubhouse. And to go back to what it is we want to discuss on the friendship game. You know, one of the things about friendship today is there tends to be a lot of distance, or can be a lot of distance between friends. And what I mean by that is I have a best friend that I went to high school with, who's one of like maybe 2 or 3 people that I still talk to from high school. And he lives in Florida with his wife. And because I went through a divorce, his wife does not find me trustworthy. And so for the past 15 years, I'm lucky if I see him once or twice a year. And it's almost as if we're always talking about work. Just so that it gives him, I guess, a clean conscience about what he did during the day was talk work and work and work and work. And I'm very sad to have lost him as one of my friends that I would talk to almost every day or every other day. And I wasn't allowed to go to the wedding because I was divorced. And, you know, by the way, the wife, Yvonne, that I was divorced from, that she knew, is one of my best friends. And she doesn't even, my best friend's wife, doesn't even have the audacity or the gumption to call me up or to call my wife up and find out that, hey, we're great friends. And we've done the work to restore integrity. But she has a lot of broken relationships in her past, very nasty ones with lawsuits and stuff like that. Very vindictive, was hauled away almost at one point. And I look and I see, you know, my best friend, she's very pretty, super skinny. And, you know, I know this is a 24-hour Bible study, but I'm going to say it anyway. When she's in a good mood, she loves sex and she uses it as a weapon. And so when it comes to that kind of weapon, I lose with my friend. And I completely get it. So Sujata wants to chime in. I can't wait to hear where this is going to go. Go ahead, Sujata.
I have to chime in. Okay, that's the whole purpose of this room. So, in that entire description, while the wife of your best friend has kept you and your so called best friend away, I would still put the accountability and responsibility on your best friend that he's weak and does not stand up for his relationship.
That's
So, if
why
he,
I mentioned the sex things, Sujata,
yeah,
because
but
my friendship doesn't win over him having sex in his marriage.
okay, I'm sorry, but I don't. The audience and all of you have to excuse me on this, but I'm going to be a little very, what should I say, firm in my statement on this. Is it always? Does it always have to, in relationships, even external, inside, have to always be about sex? Seriously? Can men not go beyond their genital organs and, think from their heart and soul? Is everything to do with just that organ of yours? I'm sorry, I had to just say it. I normally try to be politically correct.
I just want
uh,
you to know, Sujata, I know a
but
couple
I
of
had
women.
to say it.
I know a couple of women that are just the same. So don't you dare just pin it on men.
I never said anything about gender bias. Okay, even if it's the other side, I would say the same thing. Why is it when it comes to relationship, people get hung up on that aspect? There's more to it. Anyway, that
All
maybe
right.
that's why I stand alone in some of my thought process. But I would rather stand alone on this one.
don't mute up. Stay unmuted. You can't get all fiery like that and then go on mute, Sujata. There's more to the conversation.
Of course, I can go on mute because I said what I had to say, and now I shall keep quiet and listen to what the others have to say.
But this is a good discussion between you and I. They can join in a moment. They're adult. They can listen for a while. We're very generous with the microphone, Sujata. So
that's true.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I also don't want to be the cause of him having strife at home. Right? I mean, I love him as a best friend. I'll be there when if ever he needs me. If he called me tomorrow and he needed something, I'd be on a plane tomorrow afternoon.
Yes, I know that. But he won't be there for you. So it is a one-sided relationship.
Well, there you go. That's the interesting dilemma, right? Is because, as you know, I'm looking at buying a business, right? And this is a guy that could, like you and I could go into our wallet and maybe pull out $20. He could go into his wallet and pull out $100,000. And due to the constraints of his wife, I will never get that opportunity. And yet, so here comes a little bitterness from Coach Les. And yet, she's burned through $250,000 in a business where she refused to get coaching. She refused to talk to somebody that owns $1 billion business that she wanted to get into, who was willing to talk to her and give her free advice because he's a friend of mine. And due to that, I was able to call my best friend up and say, hey, I have an appointment. Just come on down. We're going to drink wine, hang out, and those two can chat. And she said, I don't need it.
Yeah, so there's not your bitterness, it's a reality which you are saying of a situation. And if people are foolish, to put it mildly, then it's their problem. They don't know what they missed. Just because of their biases and just because of their vindictiveness, then you lose out. It's you who loses out, not the other person who's offering you something of value.
Yeah, I know. It's I have several stories like this, Sujata. I have a story of someone that cost me between $250,000 and $500,000 that I'm still struggling with the impact of that 7 years ago.
Yes, that's betrayal.
So when it comes
You befriend to betray.
What's that?
You befriend to betray. Some people befriend to betray.
Yes, exactly. So it's, it's one of those things. And, as a coach, I'm not going to, I refuse to continue to eat the rat poison to try and poison the rat. And, so I have opportunities like this where I share the story and, I can feel the emotion and I relive the experience on purpose to have people hear the passion, hear the hurt, hear the emotion. And then I give it up and give it up to God, because he's the only person that can manage that conversation, right? At some point. So, and I appreciate your candor, Sujata, because I know where your heart is. And I know, we've both had that kind of stuff. The question for me is, I will be there when it's time to be there. And I believe God has a plan. And someday she will realize the error of her ways. And I pray that it's in time to have her go up rather than down.
Sometimes we get betrayed for lessons to be learned, which is again God showing us that you better walk away from investing in a relationship which is not going to lead you anywhere. And while we can be optimistic, if the other person has to realize and come back, they will come back. But also remember, they may not realize ever, even till the point of their dying. They may hold on to their grudges and all. I've seen that a lot happening in my life. They're ready to die but not willing to let go. That happens. So they
Oh,
carry the bitterness to almost the grave.
it's ridiculous.
You do with those kind of people, you can't do anything.
No.
So it's best to do as much as you can, because your intention is clear, and then just walk away, because it's not worth giving your time and your feelings and your emotions where it is not reciprocated or deserved. You don't deserve to do that. Why should you throw it away? There are other people out there who can benefit from your generosity of spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Joey, we're passing the mic to you.
All righty. I was probably over the last couple of days since I've been, while I've been in this room with you all, thinking of different relationships I've had. And I have really been fortunate that I have not experienced, I have not experienced that, like what that experience, what you just mentioned, Coach. I've been fortunate. Now, that doesn't mean I haven't had friendships be put on hold for 10 to 12 years. Doesn't mean I haven't had other relationships with a certain family member that we didn't speak to each other. And then I have one other scenario. He's a friend of mine. We were pretty close, and I ended up working for him. I will briefly share each scenario, but just to give you the gist of where I'm going with this, and I'll give you where I'm going with this first. I'm a huge proponent of reconciliation. I'm a huge fan of also examining my responsibility in relationships, especially those that kind of go south. Not every situation, obviously, break up or where we didn't remain in a close relationship was my fault, or certain things just happened that were beyond my circumstance, beyond my control. And but as a result, friendships were lost or time missed with family members. So with that being said, I like to always look at my spot, my position, and I love reconciliation. I maybe someone would say, because I say reconciliation at all costs. So I'll explain. So the first one was fairly easy. A really good friend of mine I worked for, he was, I guess you call him my boss or something like that. But this wasn't the end of the world. Although when it was happening, I was getting pretty upset with him. He was feeding me addresses to go collect cable boxes, right? And he swore up and down he was giving me the best addresses. He swore up and down he was giving me addresses that were fresh from Cox Cable. Now it's a money thing, right? So it's his money and my money, and I was able to just because the nature of the work and some of the things I can tell, I had realized that he wasn't, and I was mad, and I let him know that I questioned him, but right away I thought, man, and we're good friends, and I'll let him know that I don't think it's right, but I wasn't going to allow. What I told myself was I'd rather stop working with him because it was his problem. It was causing me to lose some money, but that wasn't that important. I really, truly did enjoy his friendship, and he had done some stuff that was, in my opinion, deceitful, but it wasn't enough for me to not ever be his friend again. And we're friends to this day. And I turned the other cheek, and I kind of just let it go. And because I valued so many more things about him than this poor decision. The other one was my best friend from the neighborhood. When I was 2, he was when I turned 1, he was born. Right, we were 1 year apart, and I won't go into great detail on this one, but we lived next door to each other my parents lived next door to his parents. They were best friends. I'm talking best friends. Vacations, trips, cruises. His aunt and uncles, I called his aunt and uncles. I would to this day still call his aunt and uncles aunt so and so and uncle and grandparents. We were Italian family's really close. Anyway, there was a falling out between my family and his family, and it had something to do with my mother and his father. Let's just put it that way. And we lost contact, and man, I was hurt. I mean, I didn't direct the anger at him. I was directing the anger at my mother and his father. But as a result of it, we lost contact. I missed his wedding, his sister's wedding, his brother's wedding. I missed the birth of his kids, and I still go back to the reconciliation. And it was unfortunate that we were the product, that our broken relationship was the product of poor decisions.
Oh,
yeah. But we reconciled. We're best friends again. We're like amazing best friends, and we didn't bring up anything of the past. But I say this, I don't think it's always the conversation when we talk about friendships is always this great this tragic story of betrayal. I think it could just be your friends, you're not. 12 years go by, you got to fix it. And then the other story was something similar, where I didn't talk to my first cousin for about 4 or 5 years, and we had a falling out. And once again, it was a falling out. It had something to do with my daughter and her. It wasn't that big of a deal to me. My brother had to open up his big fat mouth and get on her case, and she got pissed at everybody, and we went like 5 years without talking to each other. And one Saturday morning when I was in New York visiting, I was like, you know what? Heck with it. I'm going over. I'm knocking on her door. Enough's enough.
Ooh, brave.
Yeah, and we're back together. We have a great relationship. So I don't have that story of that big betrayal, but I will say I'm a huge fan of reconciliation, and I'll yield the mic.
I think Joey, you have 2 daughters, correct?
2 daughters and a ride and die. No, 3 daughters, Coach.
3 daughters.
3 beautiful daughters. Yeah, 3 daughters.
And all 3 of them have different personalities according to what it is you recommend they do.
They are all 3 complete opposites. Yes.
Okay. Sujata, what do you think about it? Before I jump in on this, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Every person is different. And when it comes to reconciliation, with Joey saying, who doesn't want reconciliation? All of us would love to have reconciliation. And some of us make the efforts. It doesn't always happen that way because it takes 2 to tango.
Yes.
So we can do from our side our best. But whether it will give us the desired result, we don't know. And if there are people like Joey probably who are blessed not to have deep heartbreaks and betrayals. But it's also true that there are many who go through this time and time again because that's a part of human nature.
Yeah, I'll just share real quick too, Coach, and we've already discussed this like maybe 8 months ago, and I brought it up the other day. The only really deep hurt one that really hurts, and I mentioned it the other day, and it doesn't hurt. It really doesn't. It is what it is. But it was when I was let go from my staff position at church. That's probably the only one that I could really think of that where I was let go. Me and the pastor didn't get along. He ended up firing me, and that one stung. That was the only one that I felt betrayed. Yeah, that was the only one that I felt betrayed. And, to this day, but once again, look, I'm going to see people on the streets. I'd enter into a relationship with all these people all over again. Like, they did what they did. I don't need them to explain why they did.
Well,
they did,
and you're
or,
not,
or
and
this,
we're not.
The situation didn't do anything.
Yeah, and we're not judge, jury, and executioner over here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. But that's the only one that I could definitely say I felt like a really, like the friend from New York, my best friend. That one stings, and I've come to peace with that with my mother and his father, and listen, I'll tell you real quick, and then I'll yield and let someone else go. His mother and my mother were best friends. They're friends again. So so everyone's moved on. We're all past it, with the exception of my stepfather, and he lives in Florida now.
All right, I'm going to pass the mic over to Jeanette because I'm biting my tongue here.
You're biting your tongue. I'm biting my tongue. I'm like biting my tongue. Look, I've been stung so many times. Let me tell you. But I'll tell you, I've always been the fireball, and I've always spoken out about the wrongs and the integrity.
Yep.
Always. You know how they say blood is thicker than, or family blood is thicker than water, right? I'll tell you, not in my family.
Not mine either.
They stung me the worst. And, well, one of the things too is that, my mom kept me away from the family for whatever reason. Well, I know now. But, so, I hear, when I have my talks with them and they tell me all of their judgments about me, and then when I shed light on it and they realize these were things that were because of gossip for whatever reason. And so, I will tell you, and they try to say words that are very stinging, right? They want to throw these, I call it stones. They're stone throwers. And the stone throwers are the ones in your relationship where every time they throw something hurtful at you. You're this, you're that. And picture you have these stones in a little pouch on your side, and they just keep throwing stones, and pretty soon your back is bending, and it eventually breaks, right?
Yeah.
A lot. And a lot of my family, my own family, were stone throwers. So they would try to get to your spirit. They would say things that were just really wrong and not true, but they didn't care because their main goal was to just hurt you. And for me, I was always one that just stood and listened, let them throw their stones. But unbeknownst to them, they were just bouncing off because I was ready to throw the boulder back. And what would end up happening, I'm very soft-spoken. I don't shout, I don't scream. I just wait for my turn to speak. And with them, it's very calm. It's I've heard everything that you said. If you're willing to discuss it, great. Otherwise, you've said a lot of things that were hurtful, hateful, and just downright evil. How could you be like that? And then I would just throw questions at him after the question. And when they would try to rebuttal, I'd say, you know, we're either going to have a conversation or we can end it now. And of course, their posture is, I'm going to have the last word and I'm going to say the meanest thing I can. And you get to the point where you say, you know what, we're at an impasse here. It was great knowing you. I will hold you from a distance. It's, you know, good luck and goodbye. You know, one of the things that they always underestimated me was that I have a lot of friends that have great relationships. So it wasn't like, you know, most people, they feel this obligation or they feel this emotional tie, but your family, I've got to make it work. But there's mental and emotional abuse, and you have to confront it at some point. You don't just let it go. You don't just say, you know, I'm just going to ignore them and never see them. You have to confront them. Otherwise, it walks with you forever. But when you have that resolve, when you have that resolution, we say, I've said my piece. I've set my boundaries, and you refuse to follow those boundaries. I have to think of me, and you have to move on. There are a lot of relationships, and they could be friends, they could be family. And it just so happens a lot of my family were like that. But at the same time, you know, like when I was going through, you know, Coach, I've been going through this storm for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, when I called family, none of them, in fact, they never answered my calls. I'd call, left messages, and when I would call, they would just go to voicemail. They never called. They never reached out. It was my friends that were there, and I didn't have to ask them. They showed up in every possible way that they could. They were either on the phone checking up with me all the time for the ones that couldn't be present. They were either calling me, let's pray. They were at my doorsteps saying, here, you know, let's take care of things. What is on the agenda today? I mean, I didn't have to ask them for help at all. And when I saw that, I was like, that's how it's supposed to be. How it's supposed to be. Wow. You know, because usually I'm on the giving end. I'm always the one that's there. But I never thought about, you know, when it's my time, they'll be there for me, and they were, which was great. But when you have this push-pull relationship all the time, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of emotional up and down, you know, and it takes a toll. It does take a toll, you know, but you do have to have that conversation. You can't carry it around with you. You know, Joey, he talks about these things that were hurtful to him. They pulled at his heartstrings. And I have so many stories like that, so many stories, you know, or conversations with my ex-sister-in-law, you know, and her perception of me all these years. And when I corrected it, you know, we had a conversation. She says, oh, I'm so sorry. They always thought I was a spoiled brat, you know, and not realizing that I worked hard for everything I got, you know, and so people they're judging you all the time. And it's those judgments, you know, with your friend Coach, his wife is judging you constantly. And you know that that's drawn out of fear and insecurity. Has nothing to do with you, but at the same time, it's hurtful. And you want to have that relationship with your friend, but he's exhibiting the same insecurities and fear that his wife does.
Yep.
So they're enabling each other. They're codependents.
Codependent. There you go.
Yes. And, we don't want codependence. We don't want, you and I, we don't want, we want people to tell us like it is. If we're not walking in integrity, tell us, we're like that. Because we know that comes from love and nothing else. It doesn't come from a stone thrower. It comes from someone with a good heart that loves us and says, you're walking out of a tangle, you better shape up and correct it. And that's what we want. That's what a friend is. And a friend and a friend that does that and you have that bond of love, that's family. That's real family. So I relinquish the mic.
Sujata, do you want to jump in?
Well, Janet always mirrors my thought process, so I think I agree with her 100%.
Wonderful. Hi, Tanisha. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good, Coach. I'm here on the road. We start our vacation a little bit early, so we're driving, and we should be at our destination in 32 minutes, and then pick up tomorrow in the afternoon. But oh man, what a night! So reconciliation. I'm gonna say something on that part. For me, I would say yes. I think if the door was still open, as far as in if for me, I'm going to give an example. I have someone that was in my life for about 7 years. Actually, she introduced me to my now husband. We were friends for a while, and then when I met my husband through her, we got disconnected for whatever reason, because she wanted to dictate, pretty much not dictate the relationship, but dictate how I go about doing things, and I was not for that. So she stopped talking to me. She did not come to my wedding. And then 3 years later, she searched for me and found me at my job, at my current job. And she called me on my job phone. And so for me, that door was still open because we did not seal anything. We did not talk about it, because every time we try to talk about it, it would just not end well. So we just decided to just walk away. So fast forward, she came back into my life, and we talked a little bit about it, and we made a pact that moving forward, that, we would try to make this friendship work, and what some of the things that we would do. So I'm going to say this, Coach, but I introduced her to Club Room. Right now, we're not friends anymore because of Clubhouse. And I introduced her to Clubhouse. She came on, and she was in this room, and I guess something was said that she was not approved of, and that ended our friendship again. So for me, I am just like, I don't know. It seems like I have a lot of friend issues. And when it comes to reconciliation for me, as I said, if the door is still open, I think it's possible if you do see the value in that friendship, but then this is the second time, there is not going to be a third time. That's it. So I don't want to talk about it. I am finished. I am walking away, because obviously there's an issue right there. So that is my share on reconciliation, and I pass the mic back to you, Coach.
Woof. I had to cross my arms on that one, Tanisha.
I know, Coach.
Well, for now, I'm going to let you continue to breathe,
Yes.
and we'll see how you feel this week. I think I'm just going to keep going and save my 2 cents to the end. Hardeep, how are you? Welcome. So good to see you. The mic is yours.
Well, hello, Coach Les. Hello, Sujata, Joey, Jeanette, and Alicia. Hello. I'm doing good, Coach. I like the topic. You have picked a topic that I'm very fiery about, reconciliation.
Oh,
I don't believe in it.
what?
I don't believe in reconciliation.
Why not?
Because, when you walk away from a village, you don't return to that village. See, when you walk off that road, you don't go back to that road. You don't circle back and go back to the road again.
Why not?
Because it's just a road that's a road that you're not going to travel again. It's a path that you walked away from. Why return? Why go back and loop again onto that same path? If the path gave you pain, why go back to that path? Why open something that caused you pain in the first place? Here, I'll go into it a little bit. I, like Jeanette, was stoned by my family. I'm still stoned. I'm the worst person my family could ever think of that could ever live on this earth. According to them, I'm not worth it. I'm the black sheep. I'm dirty. I'm not worth it. And the list goes on for them. Till today, it's been 15 years since I've seen my biological father on his hospital bed when he broke down and said to me, you know that I had an affair, and he waited till I was a grown woman with children. And when he said it, I looked at him and I said, I already knew. 15 years it took him, mind you, I was like 33 when he said it. And when I was born, he left when I was 6. So, after all the stones and all the beatings I got, he turned around and said, you know what? I said, yeah, I know. And after that, I was blamed for everything that could go wrong. If I didn't even do it, I didn't even think it, they blamed me for it. So I decided 15 years ago that I was going to walk away and that I was not going to put myself in that position to be belittled, thrown at, pushed down, and reminded that I was guilty of something that I wasn't guilty of. I don't believe that reconciliation, it can happen if you're doing a business transaction. It can happen if you're doing a house foreclosure and you want to bring it back and you pay your bill. Sure, you can reconcile. But when it comes to relationships, friendships that tend to bring you down, there is no reconciliation. Because if, like I always say, leopards can change spots, but they don't change their behaviors. And I believe that, I have great friends. And when we have a disagreement on something, it's not a disagreement on the person, it's the disagreement on the topic. So I have friends that are for 20 years or 15 or 10 years, and they're closest family I've got. And they've always said something to me, Hardeep. I say, what? They say, how is it that, we see you, but your family sees you as this Cruella of the 100 Dalmatians? I said, because, Hardeep, for you guys, Hardeep says what she is, for them, when I say who I am, for them, it's like a stab in the back. They say, how could she say that? How could she be like that? Why is she like that? And I say, because I don't conform to their mentality, conform to their lifestyle. So I just walk away. And I've walked away for the last, 15, 16 years now, and I've never traveled the road back. And there is no room for reconciliation, because when we sit in a room, or if we even cross paths, fists get clenched, and we want to go and we want to have that final battle. And it's better to stay away than to get even more hurt. So I'm Hardeep, and I'm done speaking.
I just love that because I do that most of the time. I use the power of silence where I don't even engage and bother to, give any kind of a rejoinder or response which might be termed as defensive. And when they're closed minds, it's no use breaking your head against the wall. And I choose to walk away and just leave it at that, because why should I give it that much importance? I feel the pain, but I don't need to let them know that I was pained and I was wronged, and I give them the satisfaction that I'm trying to do something about it. You can only salvage a relationship when it's not so bad, but when it's deep and painful and hurtful, then I walk away. I just shut off and walk away. I don't engage. That makes sense.
Yeah, Sujata, I shut myself off because I have foster parents who are my parents. Like, I have my dad is Don, and my mom, my foster moms, I have two, and it's Joan and Carol, and they're my moms. So when people ask me, it's funny, when me and my dad were working on the same construction site, and they said to me, "Oh, Hardeep, you're East Indian." And I says, "Oh, yeah." And they said, "Oh, your dad's working here?" They were thinking he was East Indian, but my dad's as white as a ghost, right? So, and then I said, "Oh, yeah, my dad is Don. He's the guy that gives you guys water in the morning." And they went to him and they asked him, "Oh, your daughter is Hardeep?" And he says, "Yes, my princess." "Oh, you met up with her?" And they said, "Yeah, she's like one of the loudest people on site." And he said, she's my daughter. And one thing he told me was, "Princess, when life does not go your way, what do you do?" I said, "Well, Dad, I try to fix it. And then if I can't fix it, then I just stop and I let it run its course." And when it came to my family, my biological family, I learned the hard way is when I gave my spirit to them. As growing up, getting an arranged marriage, I gave my spirit to them. And at that time, I did not know that I had my own identity, my own person.
Yeah.
And learning to take it back was, either I end up being cremated and my children not know who I am, or do I take away my children and bring them up the way that belongs, and that it's a universal world, and I don't have that pain and bring that pain back. For me, going back to something like that means death is walking to my door. I'd rather death not come to my door, so I stay away from it. And I tell people, blood is not by choice. Family, you can make choices on. Family does not mean that it's going to be blood. Family can be the neighbor across the street. It could be your teacher. It could be your lawyer. It could be anyone else. that may turn out to be the family that you as a soul person are looking for. And that's the way I think. And that's just the way it is.
Well, I'm super excited that you have found, find how sometimes, even with our eyes wide open and our hearts wide open, that does nothing in any of the areas that you were just talking about. Do you resonate with that?
No, I don't. I can't. I don't. You'll have to. Yeah, you'll have to say it in a way that I'll understand.
Well, Joey mentioned the whole thing about blood. And, and we talked about not being able to choose who our parents are, who our family is. And I do believe there is a connection with family that exists, that is there, that is very powerful. When it comes to any of what I would call outside the box behavior, I just don't. I look at friendship with people and friendship with family, that family always gets a plus for me. Why? Because you grew up with the same, even maybe not exactly, but you grew up with the similar parental disposition, which then gives you some bearing of support going into the future. And I know my two older sisters said very few words to each other twice when I got them to meet up over the course of almost 40 years, over some stupid thing that nobody remembered. And yet, that's the only thing I can say. And yet, because I look at that and go, how is this possible? When there was all these scumbags out in the world, there's all this brutality out in the world, when there's sweetness that comes from non-family members, it then gives us this, I think, makes you look even harder on your friends, on your relatives, because you want to know, look, you're my sister. How come you can't let some of that stuff go into the past? Neither of my other two sisters are even with us. They're with God. And
Coach,
yeah,
let me give you a little bit. With my two siblings, and I have two of them, two boys, we share the same father, but we don't share the same mother.
Yeah.
With the boys in my culture, and Sujata might agree with this theory, is that the boys have always been the prodigy blood, as you may call it.
Yeah.
And for me, as a girl, I was looked at as a plague. And
As a what? As a what?
As a plague. I was like a leper
of
some.
When you said a plague, I didn't understand. Like the plague. I got it. Okay, sorry.
And as years went by, I lived a life that was very resilient, very not to the norm of the Indian culture. I was raised with my foster parents, and they taught me how to love my culture and how to keep the East Indian culture, but keep and become Canadian, if that's what you guys want to call it. But for me, reconciliation, to me, to even sit in the same room as people who wanted me to die at an early age and who came after me because I've had a child out of wedlock. My youngest son was my pride and joy. Well, he still is. And to have those same people hunt me down like a dog, mm-hmm. and do wild things to my life, for me, I look at the world as the family that I have is what I found on Clubhouse, who I've resonated with, my foster parents, my foster brothers and sisters, my cousins. And I look at that as my go-to, my friends. But when it comes to biological family, I don't find that they have merits or have any sound say in how I will treat them further on in my life, because they've lost that privilege to gain my spirit and gain my my alliance. I'd rather I align myself with the enemy than align myself with them, because I know at least with the enemy is going to come up with is going to be truthful in why they're my enemy. But with them, there's going to be always that that hidden agenda. To me, they don't even know who I am. I can walk into a funeral, which I did a few years ago. They didn't even know who I was, and I walked out and said my condolences, and off I went. And for me, I'd rather go to and be surrounded by people that are strangers than be surrounded by people that might be ready to stab me somewhere or another.
It's oh, I'm gonna. Sujata's good. I think I'm okay. Go for it. She's mic is off. Shh, less quiet.
No, but whatever she's saying is very true. I mean, that she's alive also is a miracle, because I don't believe with this so-called biological family. So you have to love them or they have to love you. We have seen so many cases where the biological families do honor killings just because you want to marry somebody of your choice out of caste. And there are baby girls who, if possible, they would be put to death. Even now in today's century, maybe you don't get to hear of it most often, but there I've seen children and girl children being abused by this thing, or treated so badly as second class, not even second class citizens, I would say. If there's a boy, then the boy takes precedence and the girl is of no consequence. Okay, so when you have families like that, I don't see how you can, just because they are so-called family, you have to love them and you have to forgive them. You won't do that with an outsider. Why would you do it with your own family, who's actually should be giving you all the love and affection that you want and need? So for me, I go beyond these relationship things which are told to us by society. Every relationship has to have love and respect mutually. If it's not, then I don't care whether it's your own blood relations or not relations. I do not keep in touch. I will not engage and I will not keep in touch if over a period of time you've only inflicted pain. Unless I'm one of those, what is that word called, masochist or something, where you like to get pain. Why would you be in that situation?
Coach, you mind if I jump in?
Of course.
Because I'm the one that actually first said reconciliation. So, and Hardeep, I was in the back channel letting you know, and listening to what you shared. Look, I agree. I was mentioning reconciliation in circumstances when it comes to friends. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. But what you described, definitely, I would say run, right? Like if that's your family, like what you described from your family, your mother, your father, and yeah. So once again, I think there could be different scenarios and reconciliation. Although for me, I am in favor of it, but I definitely, hearing what you shared, if it doesn't apply and if it doesn't fit, if there was that deep hurt, right, then I can't just say I would never say to you, if we were sitting having a cup of coffee, you're not going to change my mind. I think you can reconcile. I'll tell you that right now. That's not going to be what I'm going to say to you. I probably won't say anything and just listen. But with that being said, the situation for me where I says reconciliation, maybe I am.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We are now going to shut down the live podcast and look forward to picking it up on Wednesday next week. And thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And with that,
coaching with Les has doubled my practice.
We've increased our sales by about 33%, of blowing all of our goals out of the water.
In my first 6 months, I actually grew my business with his help over 500%. Literally 500%.
Les Hill is the type of person that invests back in you and back into your company. So if you're looking for a business coach with integrity, choose Les Hill.